It is my great honor and privilege to announce our heroes, our guests of honor, the World War II veterans who are with us. Robert Boulay, U.S. Marine Corps, D-Day veteran. He served aboard the legendary battleship USS Texas, including in support of Operation Overlord on D-Day. He also saw action in the Pacific, in North Africa, and the invasion of southern France. John Birch, U.S. Army, D-Day veteran. He was a medic dropped with glider forces of the 82nd Airborne during the D-Day invasion. Posted with the 99th General Hospital, he endured some of the toughest fighting in France, including the Battle of the Bulge, always attempting to save another life. Charles Lindy Burnett, U.S. Army and U.S. Air Force. Charles was drafted into the Army just after combat operations ended in World War II and later served in the Air Force, rising to the rank of Staff Sergeant. He says he believes he is the only man from Pittsylvania County ever drafted twice. Jack Castle, U.S. Navy. Stationed at the Norfolk Naval Base Air Station during World War II, Jack earned a degree in psychology from American University before he saw further service in the Korean conflict. Later, he served as a naval recruiter in Roanoke and retired as a lieutenant commander. Jerome Jerry DeGraff Jr., U.S. Marines. His service began after all major combat operations ended, allowing him to serve mostly stateside, including stints with the 2nd Marine Division, at the Naval Prison in Portsmouth, New Hampshire, and at the Brig at Camp Lejeune, North Carolina, rising to the rank of sergeant. Roderick Lewis Edwards Sr., U.S. Navy. He served in the Pacific Theater and the liberation of the Philippines in particular. The son of a Purple Heart recipient in World War I, Ralph has 4 brothers who served in the Army, the youngest of whom was wounded in the Korean conflict. Alvin E. Jerry Fox, U.S. Army. Mr. Fox served in the occupation of Germany with Troop C of the 37th Constabulary Regiment. Ada Hostler Kuhn, Women's Army Corps. Ada served in the WACs in the U.S. and in the European theater, working in a motor pool in Newport News before deploying to France and later Frankfurt and Berlin. Ada was not the only hero in her family. Her brother was killed in Europe on D-Day +7. Richard Enlow II, U.S. Navy. He served in the 33rd Seabees as a carpenter's mate 2nd class aboard the aircraft carrier USS Tarawa. Mr. Enlow participated in the savage invasion of Peleliu in 1944. James Joseph Jefferson, U.S. Navy. Joe served as an electronics technician's mate 3rd class aboard the destroyer USS Breckinridge in the Pacific. In the rapidly developing field of naval electronics, he helped to service the new technology being developed during the war. Robert Key, U.S. Army and U.S. Air Force. Bobby served 12 years in the Army and also later in the Air Force with service in Korea and Vietnam. Henry Bud Mason, Jr., U.S. Navy. Bud served with 2 units of Seabees, the 134th and 144th Construction Battalions in Guam at the end of the war. After he was discharged from the Navy as a Seaman 1st class, he faithfully served in the Naval Reserves for 8 more years. John McCain, U.S. Army. Mr. McCain served in the Signal Corps in Germany for 2 years. Rupert Melton, U.S. Navy. He served in the Pacific and Asiatic theaters aboard the heavy cruiser USS Los Angeles. He joined the Navy on the 1st anniversary of Pearl Harbor at just 17 years old. With only an 8th grade education, he studied diligently to be rated a signalman 3rd class, passing every test with flying colors and surpassing his shipmates with college degrees. Roy Douglas Minix, U.S. Navy. He served at the Aviation Ordnance School. 3 days before he was 18, he enlisted and he was discharged in 1946. He was also involved in the design of the National D-Day Memorial. Marion Knoll, U.S. Navy. Mr. Knoll served as a motor machinist mate, third class, aboard LST 779, including tours to Iwo Jima and Okinawa. LST 779 was the first LST to beach on Iwo Jima's shores on D+1 and unloaded much-needed howitzers onto Green Beach. The landing ship also supplied the flag made famous by Joe Rosenthal's epic photo of the flag raising on Mount Suribachi. John Owens, U.S. Army. He landed on D-Day +7 at Utah Beach and fought in the battle for Cherbourg. He served in the Army for 3 years. Louis Silcox, U.S. Army. Mr. Silcox was so eager to serve his country in World War II that he enlisted in the Army at age 15, lying about his age. He was soon discovered and sent home, but when he was old enough, he served during the Korean War, where he was a driver for the M39 armored utility vehicle and where he merited the Purple Heart. Joseph Elmer Stroud, U.S. Navy. Mr. Stroud served proudly in the Navy from 1943 to 1946. Ralph Theodore Bud Seuss, U.S. Army. Mr. Seuss served from 1942 to 1946 in the United States as a technician and mechanic on communications equipment, including the crucial teletype machines. Billy Vai, U.S. Army. He served in the European Theater of Operations with the famous 80th Infantry Division. He participated in the Battle of the Bulge and was awarded the Bronze Star. Mr. Vai will celebrate his 100th birthday next week. Dan Valerial, U.S. Marine Corps. Dan enlisted in the U.S. Marine Corps as soon as he was old enough and served in the occupation of Europe after combat, helping to clear Mediterranean islands. His unit was also sent to the Middle East as peacekeepers during the Arab-Israeli War of 1948. After his service, he served as a police officer in Washington, D.C., and today still helps to educate student visitors at the National D-Day Memorial. Clarence Bill Wenzel, U.S. Navy. Mr. Wenzel served aboard the aircraft carrier USS Tarawa in the Pacific Theater. He joined the U.S. Navy Reserve right out of college in 1944 and spent 26 weeks in pre-flight training at the University of North Carolina to earn his wings. During his service, he made 72 carrier landings with no wave-offs. Ladies and gentlemen, the World War II veterans.